Hey everybody, Grommel's here with some more simulator battle action. This time I want to show you a fight from the Guadalcanal campaign event, which I thought was quite interesting, even though there weren't exactly lots of kills in the fight I want to show you. But before I start with that, another small thing I want to mention real quick about the historic matchmaking I was talking about in the last video. Now, with the Wars on the Player Council on the horizon, Fodder09 started a thread on the simulator battle forums to collect some ideas and the opinion of the simulator community on historic matchmaking. So the council knows the position of the simulator battle community on this issue, and we can brainstorm and look for solutions for problems that might occur. So if you have some ideas about simulator battle MM or want to share your opinion, feel free to do it there. Link is in the description. Well then, back to the Guadalcanal campaign. Another event I liked quite a bit. I do have to say, I like the early Pacific War matchups. We got Wildcats, B-40s, B-38s and Aerocobras on the US team to choose as fighters, as well as the SPD and DBF bombers and the Catalina. For the Japanese team, we have the A6M20, the M2N Roof floatplane fighter and the KI-43-II for the fighters, and the D3A1, B5N and G5M as bombers, as well as the K6H floatplane. Team sizes were almost even. With full teams there are 13 players for the US side and 14 for the Japanese. I flew 2 missions in this event, one in the Wildcat and one in the KI-43. I like both planes and they always were among my favorites since I started playing War Thunder, but both also have their downsides, which you have to keep in mind when flying them. The mission in the Wildcat was more successful in the end, but I think the one in the Hayabusa is more interesting to show, so that is what I will focus on in this video. Well, the KI-43 is of course the army counterpart to the Zero and follows a similar design philosophy. It's a lightweight fighter with a focus on maneuverability. The plane, just like the Zero, is not very fast. Fast enough to catch planes like a Wildcat, but after that it's pretty quickly outclassed when it comes to speed. The Hayabusa is a little bit heavier than the Zero and therefore does have a higher wing loading, partly because the later Hayabusas had a bit of armor to protect the pilot's head and rubberized fuel tanks as well. On the plus side, the Hayabusa has a much better roll rate than the Zero, which makes it, in my opinion, in a lot of situations more pleasant to fly. One big downside of the Hayabusa is the armament. It has two 12.7mm or 50 caliber machine guns, but they use a less powerful, lighter cartridge than the AN-M2 with a lower muzzle velocity. That was done to increase the rate of fire, but when firing synchronized through the propeller, the rate of fire is still low. On top of that, the plane carries a very small ammo supply with only 250 rounds per gun. Well, after that short overview of the plane, let's take a look at the fight. After doing a quick attack on the Aerocobra, I spot a twin-engine plane coming my way in the distance. As I get closer, it turns out to be a P-38 coming in head-on, and I pull out of his line of fire in the last second. I loop around and I expect the P-38 to keep going, but he also goes into a loop and comes back around. At this speed the P-38 can turn surprisingly tight, but not tight enough, especially since I started my loop earlier. So I get a hit or two in and turn after him. Now the P-38 uses its superior speed and dive acceleration to dive away. I of course can't catch a P-38 that is diving away like this, but I decided to follow him just a little bit in case he decides to turn around and maybe come around for another head-on attack. However, you don't want to waste all your altitude doing this. Sometimes in situations like this you can see the slower plane dive all the way to the deck in an effort to gain as much speed as possible. But that would be pretty pointless here. I could not catch up to the P-38 anyway, so I stay at a slightly higher altitude. I still drag the P-38, but as I do so a Zero comes in from the front and gets hit by a second P-38. Now at first I did not see the second P-38 and I was not sure if the one I was following got the Zero in a head-on. But then I could see that there are suddenly 2 P-38s in front of me, and I stop my chase and start to circle the burning Zero. I figure they might come back in to finish him off and then I can come down from above. As I do so I can spot another plane coming in from behind, and I figure maybe it's another enemy going for the Zero. But it is just another Zero, so I pull back up again, but just as I do so I look towards the burning Zero and get a glimpse of a P-38. The new Zero also spotted him and is going for him. The B-38 most likely saw us and is flying straight away from us, using his speed to get away. At first, it looks like I might be able to close the distance, but only for a moment. Neither me nor the Zero have the speed to catch the lightning. Also, the B-38 goes into a shallow dive towards his fleet, and I have no intentions of following. I don't want to deal with the fleet's anti-aircraft guns, and if the B-38 keeps going this way, I would have to chase him over the fleet and all the way to the end of the map and hope I might be able to dive on him there. That does not seem worth the effort at the moment, so I keep my altitude and turn back, hoping I might catch him with an altitude advantage later. But as I do so, I can spot the second B-38 going for the Zero, which is on much lower altitude than I am. So I do a split S and dive on the B-38. Since the KI-43 is pretty light though, it does not accelerate very well in a dive and I don't get a huge speed advantage over the B-38. Also, I make a mistake here, and while I'm focused on getting my aim right, I forget about moving my throttle to full as I should have. I can get a few hits in, but the guns of the KI-43 with its low muzzle velocity and slow rate of fire are not very well suited for firing at longer ranges, and the B-38 is pulling away again, also moving towards the carrier fleet. Again, I don't want to deal with AAA, and the distance to the B-38 is only going to grow, so I decide to break off, gain some altitude and engage in an area further away from the enemy fleet. I do however figure that the B-38 will use this opportunity to go on the offensive again, so I keep looking back and fly a bit of a zigzag course. The zigzag helps a bit to give a larger field of view to the rear, but more importantly, it means I am always changing direction, which makes me a more difficult target. In simulator battles, even if you check your rear, you might not see an enemy coming in. Maybe he is in a dead zone or just a bit above or below your field of view, and in this case I was distracted by some tracer fire above the enemy fleet and I miss a lightning coming in. I evaded his fire in the last second, but lose sight of him when he dives away, though I think I saw him at lower altitude when I looked down. I'm not sure though, so I go back to my initial plan. I want to gain some distance from the enemy fleet and break contact with the enemy fighters to get into a better position. I continue to move away from the fleet with a zigzag movement. This time though, I switch directions more often, as I just noticed that you don't always see an enemy coming in from behind even if you are looking. I hope they finally lost track of me and I can soon turn back to the objective and go in with an altitude advantage and maybe get the drop on them. But just as I think about it, there are tracers flying by my window again. Good that I was not flying in a straight line. I stall my plane turning out of the attacker's line of fire, but I recover quickly. I do a quick left-right scissor, and as he is turning into me, I pull up a bit and roll opposite early, before our flight passes cross to have an advantage when they do, and he overshoots and pulls up. This time he is stalling, and this is giving me the opportunity to get a few hits in. But I am pretty slow too and close to stalling myself, so I don't get as many hits in as I would have liked in a situation like this. The lightning recovers from his spin and puts the nose down to dive away. He is of course much faster than me, but I hope with him stalling earlier I can at least stay in fire range for a little bit, maybe long enough to do some damage. But again, for the KI-43's armament to be really effective, you need to be a lot closer and able to get a lot more hits on target than this. And I run out of ammo without doing much. Now I have a problem, of course. I need to land to get more ammo, and in order to do so, I need to break contact with the enemy fighters. The airfield on this map does not even have AA. If they see you land, you are in trouble. And as I move back, I can see that one of the lightnings is indeed following me, and I can't outrun him, of course. So I figured the course of action here is to go on the offensive again and attack, even though I can't shoot him. I might be able to force him to dive away and give me the opportunity to land and rearm. The lightning is lower than me and coming up from below to attack as I turn toward it. He comes up guns blazing and I turn after him, and he comes around for another pass. I can see that he would be able to go for a head-on if I try to hit him here, not that I could without ammo, so I start my turn early, again, to have an advantage when he passes me, and I turn after him after he does. And get on his tail. He luckily doesn't know I don't have ammo left, and he dives away, as I hoped. There's of course no point in giving chase, so I turn away again and continue towards the friendly fleet. As I do so, I spot another P-38 to my front, but he's attacking a H-6K float plane. There's little I can do about it. I consider to make a dry run on the P-38, but without ammo I might not even be able to get his attention. So I move away. I don't want to go for a landing here right away. I figure I go for the friendly carrier fleet first and make sure that I'm not being followed. I even consider to land on the carrier instead of the airfield because it has guns. The KI-43 should be able to do it, but I have never tried the carrier landing in the Hayabusa, so I figure I leave that as a last resort, because it may go wrong. I do notice that the P-38 that attacked the float plane is coming after me and coming closer, so as before I decided to do a fake attack on him to hopefully chase him away. As he comes in, I turn after him again, and he's moving away pretty quickly after I get on his tail. This P-38 is already damaged from the attack on the float plane, I assume, so I hope that he will fly back to the airfield. I can see the smoke trail, and it seems this P-38 is indeed moving away and not coming in for another attack, and I hope that I can finally risk a landing. But as I look back, I can see AA fire from the friendly transports. Another P-38, most likely the first one I chased away, is back again. So the same deal a third time. I come around and go on the offensive, and I hope they have not figured out yet that I can't shoot. As I turn after the lightning, it seems he's diving away towards my own carrier, but I'm distracted by seeing some more bursts of AAA from the friendly transport ships. I figure there might be yet another plane coming in, but I can't see one. But while looking for another possible attacker, I lose track of the P-38 for a bit. But with the help of the carrier's AA guns, I find him again after a while, behind the friendly carrier. I assume he got hit by the carrier's AA guns, because he is smoking, and after he passed me he crashed into the carrier. Maybe a last-ditch try to take the carrier out. Now, finally, I don't see any enemy planes nearby. There are AA guns on the ships and a few on the ground near the ground objective, and none of them fire, so I figure I can finally risk a quick landing. However, I want this to be as fast as possible, as enemy planes could come back at any moment. So I move to the base fast, and I'm too fast and high for landing. I don't think I have time to do a proper approach, so I have to do a few tight turns to bleed speed on my approach and get my speed down as fast as possible. On top of that, I'm not used to the KI-43's low landing speed, and this airstrip is very short. Now, I remember the strip being short from missions I flew here in the past, but I did not remember it being that short. So I actually stop braking in a moment of indecisiveness and consider going around, but I figure I don't have the time for that, and there is enough flat terrain behind the strip to stop. On the plus side, I think I'm harder to spot here. So not the prettiest landing, but it gets the job done, and I finally get my plane rearmed and back in the fight. Sadly, I am by now the last plane alive on my team, and we are behind on ground targets. The enemy team has still at least 2 planes up. When I move towards the enemy base though, I can spot the P-38 coming my way pretty low level, and that's finally an opportunity to get close to one. I hope the speed I can build up in a dive is enough that I can stay with the lightning a bit and hopefully do some damage. So I go into a split S and dive on the P-38. I try to aim for the left engine and hope I might be able to knock it out or set it on fire. But no such luck, and as soon as I am out of the dive and in level flight again, the big speed difference between the 2 planes shows again, and I can't get as close as I had hoped and expected. And soon my speed drops enough that I fall back again. I keep up my fire and I get hits, but not enough to bring the lightning down, and the more the distance grows, the harder it is to hit and the less likely it is that I do any damage. Also, with the limited ammo supply of the KI-43, I am getting low on ammo again. So I figure continuing this chase does not make a lot of sense, and I better climb and get some altitude again, and hopefully get another chance later. I check my rear and then start to pull up, but as I do so, I lose track of the lightning. I assume he moved to the left into the mountains, and from there is heading back to his base to repair, as I assume I did at least a little bit of damage to him. I hit him quite a few times. Now, since I assume he's flying back to base, I figure I could try to intercept him at his airbase, but the thing is, he is faster, so I can't beat him to the airfield, and his airfield actually has AA guns around him. And I'm very low on ammo, less than 60 rounds per gun. Since the guns have so far proven rather ineffective, I think there is a good chance that this is not enough, so when he's flying back to his base I might as well do the same. I am closer to my base than he is to his, and maybe I can intercept him again with a full ammo load. Again, I want to get the landing done as fast as possible without a long approach, in case enemy fighters are close by, and also, checking the map, I saw we don't have any AI ground forces left, so we could lose the match at any minute. I don't have much time. This time, however, I expect the short runway and the low landing speed of the Hayabusa, so I reduce my speed quite a bit more before the landing, so I don't overshoot again. But one element I liked about the last landing was being pretty well hidden behind a tree, so what I plan to try is to roll off the strip to the side a bit when I'm slow enough, and maybe hide the plane in the trees a bit. I do try that, however, when I'm slow enough and I start to move towards the side towards the trees, I spin the plane around by accident and face the wrong direction. Now, I could give some throttle again and move off into cover as I had planned, but since I did expect the B-38 to fly home, I figured it is a waste of time. That turns out to be a mistake. The Lightning did not return home as I had expected, instead it is coming in for an attack. I considered trying to take off again, but looking to the right reveals that I am missing a wing, so takeoffs may prove difficult. And to make matters worse, the enemy AI troops are capturing the objective, so this game is over in any case. Well, that's what you get for assuming the enemy went home without checking properly. So, this is it for this fight. No kills in this one, but I thought it was one of the most exciting games without kills I have ever played, and was worth showing. I hope you agree, and this is it for this video. I hope it was entertaining, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time.